When life knocks you down, and life will knock you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Welcome to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. In my last video, I talked about how you can bulletproof your retirement by having a little extra in your retirement accounts just in case something happened. Then I made a couple of short videos, but I'm back to making my regular long video. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I retired early as a federal employee and how other federal employees can retire early. I'm going to look down and read the name of the pamphlet that I'm going to discuss because I've given this pamphlet to various different friends who are federal employees who did not know about this way to retire early as a federal employee. The pamphlet is RI 92-19A. It could have just a name like Retire Early or Deferred Retirement, but no. The Office of Personnel Management, which we call OPM in the federal government, had to give it this cryptic name, which makes it really hard to find this pamphlet. But I'm going to be going over this pamphlet today and talk about eligibility, how to apply for benefits, payments, and survivor benefits. So why is this pamphlet near and dear to my heart? Let me tell you my story. When I was going to retire from the federal government, and this was back in 2020, and actually 2019, because I put in my paperwork for 2 months later and actually retired or quit, and I'll explain that in a minute, in 2020, in January of 2020. What happened was I had an incident at work where I thought I was going to get fired because they had been threatening to fire me for 13 years. And enough stuff had piled up at this point in time that I said, you know what? It's time to go. I've had enough of this abuse and this toxic environment. It's time for me to go. Well, I did not know about this pamphlet that I'm going to tell you and deferred retirement of the federal government. So what did I do? I filed for retirement. Well, I met a friend for lunch the next day who had just quit his federal government job. And I told him, I said, yep, I put in my retirement paperwork yesterday. He told me, you go back and you pull out that retirement paperwork. And he said, just do deferred retirement. And he explained to me what this is. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you up front about this pamphlet is it does not discuss the time frame for deferred retirement. The time frame is 1.5 years before you hit your 60-year-old birthday, which is what I did. I just happened to be within that 1.5 years before I turned 60. And so I did not know that. I got very blessed and very lucky that I did this then, because all of these things that are in this pamphlet, you have to do all of these things in order to keep your health care and to not lose any of your pension. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. This pamphlet is on the OPM website, and I'm going to have a link to the OPM website that has all the pamphlets, and I'm going to also link to a Google search where if you click on the link, it will download this pamphlet for you to use. Because this is a government pamphlet, I'm going to look down and read things, but then I'm going to explain how it worked in my case and what I went through to get everything done that this pamphlet says that you have to get done. Because if you don't follow the rules, there are things in here that say it will not work and you will be in trouble. So the introduction, it says that you have completed at least 5 years of credible civilian service and are eligible for a deferred retirement at the age of 62. And for me, I did 4 years in the Army, and I did 18 years with the federal government, and I bought back my 4 years from the Army, and it only cost me like $1,300, I think, way back when. But those 4 years gave me 22 years of federal government service. and I was over my minimum retirement age, which I'll come to that in a minute, but I was over my minimum retired age, so I met the criteria for this deferred retirement. The other thing is you have completed at least 10 years of credible service, including 5 years of civilian service, and are eligible for an annuity at the minimum retirement age. I met those two criteria. It also says, do not use this pamphlet or the form RI 92-19, which is the form that you have to fill out in order to request this, if it has been less than 1 month since your separation from federal service. If you want to apply for an annuity, this means immediate retirement within 1 month, then this is not the form for you. And so when I put in my retirement paperwork, I was asking them to start giving me my pension, my annuity, within 1 month. And my friend told me, he said, no, you don't want to do that. Because I was less than 62 years old, I would have lost money out of my pension for life. And I'll explain that a little bit later. Let's talk about eligibility and how I was eligible for this program. And it says here that you've completed at least 5 years of credible civilian service, then you are eligible for a deferred annuity beginning on the first day of the month after you reach age 62. So even though I retired early and quit, I did not retire, I did not get my pension until I turned 62. So I had to wait. Now, what did I have to do in order to wait? And this is what this pamphlet doesn't cover, is it does not say in here, and you don't figure this out until you're doing the paperwork, is that you have to pay for your own health care during that time between when you quit your job and when you qualify for your annuity or your pension at age 62. So that's the part that's not here in the pamphlet that I have that experience. I had to pay the National Science Foundation, I don't know why, but the National Science Foundation, the federal government's part of my health care and my part of my health care until I turned 62. You can only do that for 1.5 years. You can't do it for more than 1.5 years. And then you would lose your health care if you quit with more than 1.5 years before you are age 62. Let's talk about the minimum retirement age. The minimum retirement age is not 62. It depends on the year that you were born. And because I was born between 1953 and 1964, my minimum retirement age is 56 with the federal government. I was over 56 years old, and I had more than 20 years of service with the civilian government that I qualified as the minimum retirement age. I talked about how you could lose money if you retire early and take your pension immediately. So I'm going to read you the rules for the age reduction, is what they call it. If you completed at least 10 years but less than 30 years of credible service before you left the federal government, your annuity will be reduced if it begins before the age of 62. And it says here, your annuity will be reduced by 0.5% or 5% per year, calculated for each month by which your benefit starts before you are 62. So what that means is that had I left at the age of 60, which I was younger than 60, so for every year under 62, I would have lost 5% of my pension. So at the time that I retired, I would have lost, if I had taken my pension immediately, and this is what my friend saved me from. If I had taken my pension immediately, I would have lost 20% of my pension for the rest of my life. That is a big no-no. I did not know that this plan even existed. I was just blindly retiring, and my friend saved me 20% of my pension. Let's talk about the health benefits and what are the requirements, because there's a lot of requirements that you have to meet in order to do this deferred retirement. You have to have been on the federal health care plan for 5 years before you claim either deferred retirement or regular retirement in order to keep your health care. So I was on the federal health care for 5 years before I took deferred retirement or delayed retirement. And therefore, I had to pay the National Science Foundation for a year and a half up until I turned 60. And then I could get my pension. Applying for benefits is fairly easy. All you do is fill out the form RI 92-19, and so you apply for deferred pension. It's a very special form, and it takes into account not only your pension, but also your spouse's survivor benefits, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, and what I did for my survivor benefits. Before I talk about survivor benefits, I want to talk about how you can get paid for your pension from the federal government. I didn't realize till I was reading this pamphlet, getting ready to record this video, that if you move outside of the US, which a lot of federal employees do, you can't have the federal government send it to a foreign bank account if your primary address is outside of the US. You have to have a US bank account, and there is a thing called a Direct Express card, which I think is like a debit card that they can put the money on, but again, it has to be within the US. When you retire with the federal government, there's automatically a survivor benefit for your spouse. And so the way that they compute your pension is they take 10% automatically off the top of your pension, because your spouse automatically gets 50% of your pension when you pass away, and they take the 10% out of your pension to help pay that 50% survivor benefit. You have the election not to take that, or you could take 25% and they'll only reduce your pension by 5%. If you choose not to have either one of those taken out and to get your full pension, you have to have your spouse's approval. The federal government makes sure. So I had to have my wife sign for me to get my full pension without a survivor benefit. If you decide that you want to change your survivor benefit for your spouse after you've retired, you only have 18 months to do that. After that, you cannot change the election unless you get married in retirement. Then you have the option to take a survivor benefit with your new spouse in retirement. And so to wrap up this video, I want to tell my friends who are federal employees who may be thinking about retirement how not to lose 20% of their pension. Do the delayed retirement. Follow these steps, pay for your health care, and then you can keep your health care into retirement. I have federal government health care, which is very expensive for other people who don't have federal government health care. I also found out after I retired that I qualify to be in an HSA, so I can invest my health care dollars. I wish I had known that when I was a regular employee. I could have a lot more saved up in a health savings account. But I am part of the Postal Service Union, meaning I worked in the federal courts. However, in the healthcare plan, I can become an associate postal person. And that allows me into their healthcare plan, which is a high deductible healthcare plan. So I can not only save money in an HSA, but the insurance company deposits $100 a month into my HSA account for me to invest. To end this video, I want to tell you that I'm doing a 75 soft challenge with other YouTubers, and I have had to start over because I didn't do all of the items that are in the challenge. So first of all, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe and share my channel with anyone you think might like this content so that once I'm monetized, I can donate the proceeds to the homeless in my community. The next thing is our quote of the day, which is, one day or day one, you decide. Remember, never let your past determine your future.